I've had Jazmine on the Kicks Over Coffee before, and today me and Saria, FDRA's marketing and events assistant, will just be, catching up with Jazmine, seeing what all she has been doing with her brand recently. So, Jazmine, if you want to introduce yourself, maybe give them a quick snippet of what.
Yeah, so Jazmine Kiana is a sustainable footwear shoe company that has a patent pending insole built into the shoe to add comfort. So that's really long, but it in a short sense.
And for those people who haven't watched our original video, like when did you start the brand and why?
Yes, so I started the brand back in around 2017, really, I guess launching 18-ish. Um, I started the brand because I had bought my first pair of designer shoes. And after saving up money as a broke college student and really wanted to buy myself a pick-me-up gift, they were completely unbearable and just completely uncomfortable. And I wanted to challenge that notion. So I utilized, or I guess you could say I took a shoemaking course in New York. I understood the components of just shoemaking. I reached out to about 20 or so insole companies and just started making our own iterations of insoles in our house. We made our first prototype in New Orleans around 2018 of January. Yeah. And yeah, the rest is where we are now.
And have you always been into shoes? Like how did that start? Like did it start when you were a child or did it start like when you got to college? Like how did that whole passion for footwear start?
Yes, so I always loved shoes and I loved clothes in general. But I lost both my parents when I was 18. So when I wanted to first like identify what I wanted to do in college, I wanted, of course, to do something with fashion. But around the time when my father began to get sick, my family was like, you gotta be practical. And I was like, okay. So I changed to being like wanting to be a dentist and like going down that whole route. And then when I got my first job in R&D, I never forget I met with an entrepreneur at that company, and she really inspired me and was like, "You can definitely start developing your own stuff." And she's like, "What is something you want to change?" And I'm like, "You know what? I wonder could heels be comfortable but cute at the same time?" And that was something that I really want to go after.
Okay, so you have this idea, you take this course, you get educated, and then you start making prototypes. And what happened next? Like, what were your some of the?
Yes, it has been a very challenging 2 years.
Mhm.
So we were able to launch. We had went viral on social media. It was a great, cute, grand time. We were able to have pre-orders. Um,
Viral on like Instagram, Twitter? What
we
happened?
went viral on Instagram. It was a particular post that was made by Incubator I was in called the Black Upstart. I think it has something to do with saying like Black scientists create shoes you can wear for hours or something in that nature. But yeah, that's what took us viral on Instagram. So we jumped from like 300 followers to over 21,000 in 48 hours. But really, since then, we had our pre-orders and our shoes that we received from our factory that was based out of LA and also quote unquote Mexico. We received those shoes and they were completely falling apart. I mean, it was a devastating loss because I had to rebuild everything from scratch. So immediately we went in kind of to troubleshooting mode, and that was one, notifying the customers, giving them options to wait for our next re-up and rebuilding with our team. Our second, a refund. So we just first that. Secondly, was building the right team. Um, when I first launched with bootstrapping. So I want to be as effective of cost instead of realizing I would have saved a lot of money just doing it the right way the first time. And it's scary to think of that because when you look at footwear, you think of all the upfront cost, but I lost that and more by going the more efficient route. So we actually partnered with a design agency in New York. We wanted to make sure when we sent our designs to our factory, our technicals were very strong, very detailed. And luckily, one of the designers that helped with developing this collection She also worked in factories and herself. So she was able to really make sure that what needed to be provided to the factories were there. We then actually decided to move our footwear, our manufacturing to Portugal. So um,
Pausing. So you're referring to your current collection now. So you got these shoes, they came back not the way that they were supposed to.
yes.
You created a team up north in New York, and you decided to just like scratch everything and come up with a whole new collection.
Mm-hmm.
And then from there, what happened? Okay, I just want to make sure I'm following.
Yes. So we decided to get Portugal involved. So we really wanted to source our material effectively. We always were a vegan and sustainable brand, but what we realized in the past is when we say vegan and sustainable, people are like, well, just be honest, leathers are not that good for the environment. You know, it's just as harmful as utilizing leather. So what does that really mean? So we actually partnered with an Italian-based sourcing company, and like when we actually can say that we're sustainable and vegan, that means we're using PETA approved leathers, USDA approved leathers, um, we're vegan leathers. One shoe is equal to one recyclable plastic bottle. We're actually built are utilizing materials that actually speaks to what we want to do as our brand. And then we worked with a factory in Portugal, which has been an amazing help. Challenging with COVID, we'll be honest. I was able to visit at the start in January of 2020, and then I went back December of 2020. So some of the challenges is like when you're ready to get started, getting your prototyping, your sampling ready, and then they shut down for 4 months, to them prioritizing projects with 10,000 per color per order MOQs versus my current one that's like 50 per color per MOQ. So yeah.
And so, what would you say is like the inspiration behind the design of your shoes now with the rebrand? Is it different from your previous collection, or is it similar?
It's actually night and day difference. I surprisingly gave all my samples to my photographer, so they're not here. But we actually shifted how we did our styles from our initial to now. When we launched before, we did kind of have the more chunkier look and feel, which we will introduce later. They're not going away, but we wanted to be very focused, very seasonal. We really wanted to identify with our brand staples, right? So again, this is probably not the best example because it's a rough prototype, but I'll show it anyway. So when we say like our brand staples, like how we want to utilize color matching, how we wanted to create like the brim, although the wide width around, like what does that really look like? What kind of details are we paying attention to for our brand? So when you start to see those shoes, you notice that that's ours. And so that was the one thing we really had to understand our customer and pay attention to what did that look like when we launched, because I think we just launched with all these kind of shoes that was just all over the place and it wasn't focused enough. And we really wanted to make sure like who is this woman that we're identifying with. And our customers kind of found themselves, we kind of found our customers when we went viral. We realized who were speaking to us and we wanted to design for that. So we paid attention to, we got over 600 emails for Black Pump. Best believe there's a Black Pump. I noticed, and I, even as brutal as some comments were, I dug through and I went through what people were saying because that's real reviews, that's real people's feedback. And so I wanted to make sure that, okay, well, if they're gonna be, if we're saying we want designer shoes to be comfortable, what does that look like? And that's when we had to be honest and say, let's get some more help and technicality of what does that look like. We also made sure that we partnered with a factory that really understood quality, that understood luxury. So our factory is the designer himself. The owner is a designer himself and a fourth generation cobbler and a very well known and respected um, designer as well. And so with that, his team brought a level of expertise that we really never knew that we needed. So the challenges that I've seen in my older factory or previous factory, we were able to mitigate a lot of those risks. We found ways to streamline our process. So we knew our insole was thick. We knew that it caused difficulties. So what does that mean? And it was hard. I remember showing up to my first meeting, and this factory was like, you have to be out of your mind to do this. This material sucks. Who wants to sit here and cut this? I don't even want to do it. Like, they were laughing at us. They was like, these Americans, like, I don't mean to saying it in a rude way, but they were just like, y'all have to be out of your mind. And when I went in December, he actually came into the room, and he was like, you need to be very proud of yourself for what you achieved, because you actually put our foot to the fire. They tried to change our insole design multiple times. When we found challenges when during the lasting process, and it was actually overheating our material, they found ways to fix that and make sure the integrity of our insole was kept. And he was like, I would have never thought a heel of that height or that thin of a heel would have comfort, and it's immediately felt. And it was a really good feeling to feel. So yeah, it's been a long journey. We're just getting ready for that revamp, but the key takeaway was really understanding our true customer and how to redefine and redesign off of that.
Yeah, going back to a little bit about what you were saying before about like finding the vegan leather. Um, Besides comfort for the heels, it looks like sustainability was a of importance to you as well when creating the brand. But why? What would make you, consider that as you're producing this product?
Yeah, so no matter what, I wanted to find a way that could somehow be a contributing factor of like just eco-friendly in some capacity. And I really didn't understand what that looks like, right? And I will be honest to say that. But it was like, no, when we stay sustainable, what does that look like? And that's made me kind of use my little science head and was like, okay, these are things that I need to look at for these red flags, right? Because you can also be sustainable with leather. You can use leather that are byproduct of the food industry. So there's nothing wrong with that either. But we wanted to create something that was completely sustainable in that sense of we are utilizing recyclable plastics, even down to how it's made is made with solar panel energy. And so it's like we really wanted to make sure that we are utilizing that throughout our whole brand DNA. Even working on that when it comes to shoe boxes, like that is even like the next big topic. Is like, how do we do that here, but still give that luxury look and feel? But yeah.
How much has like marketing, you know, been a piece of your business as you're still growing it and still kind of in its infancy, even being 2 years, that's still,
Yeah.
that
So
flow.
yeah, so marketing kind of been the little thing that we kind of kept on the back burner for a while. I kind of let my social media die. I did not care. My goal was my product. I was like, whatever we lose, if it's followers, we would gain them back and more if we built the right thing. And that's what I wanted to prioritize. Now that we're getting ready to launch, like we're in the process of placing our production order within the next week or two. So we are partnering with some allies in Baltimore to help us with that marketing. Our agent in New York is kind of helping us facilitate what does that marketing look like, creating a wait list and a limited actual like subscriber to know what we need to be on the lookout for ordering, because we are ordering a very limited order. We want it to be smart with COVID. We're not trying to sit on thousands of shoes, so we want to be realistic. But we are also aware of what that can mean when people are like, we've been waiting and then they sold out. So it's just figuring out that. So our main strategy will be utilizing waitlist features. We don't want to do pre-orders. And then with that, we kind of can gauge if we need to start raising capital to immediately start beefing up to get ready for a second order. Also, what we're kind of doing to prepare for that too is increase that prototyping and sampling, or decrease the prototyping and sampling time. So we'll for our next collection to be ahead of that. But marketing is still one of those things that we're working on. It is a headache.
I have a question for you. So, this interview is a part of our Black History Month series. And so as a Black woman, how does it feel to like be in this industry? And not only that, but creating sustainable items, because, you don't necessarily hear a lot of, for one, you don't really hear about a lot of African-American women designers, footwear designers. So how does it like feel? Does that give you a sense of pride? Does it make you want to go harder? Or like, does it give you any type of emotion?
No, it definitely gives me a great sense of pride, especially feeling when You can go to a country and they, when they first meet you, they laughing at you. They're laughing at your idea, and you can walk away with your samples and they're like, you actually did that and you held us to the fire. And I think that was more impactful more than anything else. Um, because it kind of showed that, like, it's especially feeling like a Black woman, you always feel like you're that group that always get looked over.
Mm-hmm.
And being able to show, like, no, I know what I'm talking about, I know what I'm doing, and I can present that. Also, for me, I think as Black women, we're very hard on ourselves when we fail. And for me, have been, it still is, I'm really big on this imposter syndrome. I'm really big on, like, but the first time it didn't work, and oh my gosh, like all this stuff happened. And sometimes I'm even learning how to process through that and being like, no, do you see what you have achieved? No matter how long it is taking, you're still doing it. And I had a call with a mentor not even last week, and I had just met him and I'm telling him what happened, and he's like, great, I'm glad you failed. So now that that's over, you show me that you, one, stayed in it, and secondly, now I know I'm way willing to bet my money on you because you show me that you know how to keep it going and you learned from it. The
Yeah.
fact that you immediately was like, I knew this is where I went wrong, and I built the team, and yes, that cost more funding, but I knew that's what we needed. um, that really was uplifting and encouraging in that moment. So
Yeah.
definitely an uplifting and inspiring moment.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, I will say, I remember when I was first speaking to you, I'm thinking, this girl is in her 20s and she wants to start a footwear. Like, who, where, what, why? Like, it's like such a, and I only say that not because you shouldn't, but only simply because the task is large. You know what I mean? Like, and the fact that you have this story to share about what your second year looks like, I think is like extremely important because a lot of people don't make it past the first.
Yeah.
And that's not even just Black women. That's people, period, trying to get into the footwear industry. It's not an easy industry. So I first like commend you because I don't think I've ever taken on a task that large. To be it might have felt big, but that's a huge task. But I love that, and I love heels, so I love the product in general. So I'm just happy that there's another woman that looks like me that is creating a shoe that I personally would love to wear. So my other question though, before I don't think you had any flats. Now, if you check out the Instagram page, I think there's some flats on there. So could you kind of explain what people can expect for the new collection?
Yes, so we're very focused. We're launching with 3 different styles. So we will be introducing a flat, we're introducing a 4-inch pump, and then we're introducing a resin chain sandal that's also 4 inches, just to add a little bit of more fun to the collection. We're keeping it strictly with our basics. So we having our nudes, our browns, a black, and just a fun like soft blue gray. Um, and this is in preparation of getting ready for what's to come in the upcoming seasons. Again, we really wanted to be smart, so we built our staple collection. Like, what is going to be our sole basic pump? Like, what does this look like? And we really wanted to feed into that, and as well as the pump, and started building off. So that is to come in this first collection. We're also in the process of prototyping handbags as well that will also be sustainable. We're trying to add some functionality to the handbags as well. So that's the fun part, I guess. The design part is always fun. But
And my last question for you, if you doesn't have any other questions, is there's a big pool of people who want to be you, who
yeah.
would like to have this experience and this brand. And what would you, if you had like a top 3 things, what would you tell them to be mindful of, or what mindsets or tips could you offer people who want to be in the same position as you?
Yes. One of the things I've learned is really building the right support system. I think the reason why some companies really succeed versus others is not even necessarily even money anymore. It's who is on your team and who is there that you can have to really build this product out. And at first I really didn't understand that. I'm like, okay, you just need a factory. You just need someone that can kind of draw. Fiverr does that too. Like, yeah, we get that, but like, no, no, no. What does that really look like? Because these are people that when it dropped, they were immediately deployed and figured out how can we build this back up? We can't let this go down and die. And also, you're going to need those people to cheer you on when you're feeling discouraged, when you're feeling like, is this even a smart decision? Am I doing this right? Especially, and this is just to Black people, like Black women or just Black designers in general, but I'm just going to say it. Don't be afraid of your ask. I think a lot of times we think that this is something that we're doing isn't fundable. Nobody will fund us. I mean, I'm a testament of even just today. I was stressing about how am I supposed to pay for this deposit. You know, we got money, but we used all of this money for our contractors. And literally $5,000 fell out of nowhere. And that was exactly what I was needing. I literally was on a mentor call at 10 a.m. trying to figure it out. 11:30, an email said, hey, congratulations, you got 5,000. Do not be afraid of your ask. Be very clear about that. Be clear of your resources on that. And also just kind of building back to the first is really just network, but network with intent. Don't network trying to get things out of people. It's very obvious. People understand that, they can feel that, and they will not talk to you. But when you genuine about your networking and wanting to help build, not only see what you can get from them, but what you can provide to them, I think it has a different meaning, because that partnership will go a much longer way. And that's throughout, even from my agent in Portugal to the factory owner to every kind of component factory that we know. I'll throw in one last one is to get very educated as much as you can on this process, um, because it takes away from people being able to take advantage of you. If you know your product and your process, then nobody can take advantage of that or take away from that. And so making sure you own that. And yeah.
And then just my last question is like, so when is the rebrand? Like, when will you drop your next collection? Like, when's the day?
So we're in this weird season of we're trying to figure that out too, because we're trying to get on the schedule with the factory, figuring out all the funding, all the great stuff. So I know we initially was trying to get it here in March. It's definitely looking a little April-ish. So we're just trying to accommodate of when do we actually start on the book and get everything going. But it really just depends on the components too, how long the leeway time for like getting our insole material from the US to Portugal and then making it, like that's just kind of where we're up in the air about. So I'm trying to not be no later than May. But we're definitely going to keep people updated and posted as we start placing the order. Once the photography, a lot of behind the scenes will start to come into play, which will start being seen on like our Instagram and things of that nature.
And can you just drop your Instagram real quick, just so you know those who are watching can follow you?
Yeah, so it's at Jazmine Kiana, JazmineKionna. So
Great.
Thank you, Jasmine. This was great.
you.
Like actually to ask myself to check in with you every year to see what's going on. Hopefully you don't get too big that you don't want to talk to me anymore.
No, I won't. Never.
Okay, well, thank you. We'll definitely put all your information in the description box so people can check you out. But I thank you for joining us today for Kicks Over Coffee.